Hey there, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. Happy Monday. I'm ready to get this show started. I've been in the hallway being worse than a bear, shotgunning Red Bulls, shooting random dogs with Kristi Noem, my favorite governor, and I'm ready to get back to it. The weekend, forget that. Look how fun the news is. Starting off, my first guest is going to be Zach Smith from the Heritage Foundation. Heritage Foundation has been doing fantastic work keeping up with this Michael Cohen, Stormy Daniels, Donald Trump circus going on in New York City right now. It continued today. Jack, what's the new news? What happened today?
Well, it was another brutal day of cross-examination for Michael Cohen. Keep in mind, last week, Donald Trump's lawyers had already pretty effectively kneecapped him, pointing out his bias, pointing out his prior inconsistencies, the prior instances where he's admitted to committing perjury. And yet today on the stand, even more shocking news came out. Michael Cohen admitted to having stolen money from the Trump organization. After that revelation, it's really hard to see how Michael Cohen has any credibility left with these jurors. It's kind of shocking that the prosecutors put so much emphasis, so much weight on his testimony as really being the linchpin to getting these charges, these misdemeanor charges against Donald Trump elevated to felony level offenses. And I think after today's cross-examination and testimony that came out, it seems like Michael Cohen's reputation is even more in shambles than it was going into this trial.
Yeah, but Zach Smith, I thought we already knew that he stole money from Trump.
These jurors did not know that prior to this. He admitted it under oath as well, is what he is another important facet to keep in mind here. And so I think many people are rightly asking is why? Why didn't Alvin Bragg prosecute Michael Cohen for stealing money from Donald Trump? And if Alvin Bragg knew about this and cut an immunity deal with Michael Cohen, that's certainly something that Trump and his lawyers should be entitled to know. And if he didn't previously know about this specific instance of Michael Cohen stealing money, that's also an issue. And the question becomes, why didn't he know? Either way, this is not a good scenario for Alvin Bragg and his prosecutorial team.
Well, I think a lot of people are like me. We know Michael Cohen's been in trouble for something before, but without, committing all the details to memory, this sounds like something he probably got in trouble with before. But when I hear you say this was previously not known, that comes as a shock.
Well, it's certainly not something, to my knowledge, that he's testified about under oath before, having stolen this particular money from Donald Trump. Of course, Michael Cohen has admitted to lying under oath before. And so the idea that he would lie under oath here is not particularly shocking. And again, Donald Trump's lawyers did a very effective job at cross-examining him. They played clips from his podcast where he said he was seeking to get revenge on Donald Trump.
Right.
He talked about revenge being a dish best served cold. And so all of this cumulatively, you have to wonder whether these jurors are going to convict. And I think after Michael Cohen's testimony, it seems more unlikely that they would convict before his testimony took place.
But we still know the context of where all this is happening, Zach Smith. It doesn't have to be do his lawyers present a good case. Do they present a case that's so overwhelmingly exonerating that even a New York City jury would let him go?
Look, I think it's important to keep in mind, and I suspect this is something Trump's lawyers will hammer on during their closing arguments. Donald Trump and his lawyers, they don't have to prove anything. Alvin Bragg, as the prosecutor, bears the burden of proof. He has to prove that these crimes took place beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the highest burden we know in American law. And frankly, based on what I've heard so far at trial, I don't think Alvin Bragg and his legal team have met that very high burden. And even in a place like New York, there's a chance that, if not an acquittal, at least a hung jury taking place.
Do we have a better idea how long this is going to last? I know we're not allowed discovery on everything the defense is going to do before it happens, but do you have a better timetable for us?
Well, I think Alvin Bragg and his prosecutors are quickly winding up their prosecution, their case in chief. We'll have to wait and see what, if any, witnesses Donald Trump and his team call. They were seeking to call a federal former FEC commissioner, Federal Election Commission, an election law expert, but the judge today significantly narrowed the types and issues that expert could testify on. So I don't know if it makes sense for them to call that expert any longer. There are going to be several days off at trial this week. But look, I think it's become apparent we're quickly heading toward the end of this trial.
What do they do about Memorial Day weekend?
I suspect they're going to take it off. There's also some other juror issues where they're going to have to take off a day. Typically, the trial hasn't been taking place on Wednesdays as well. And so I think it is very reasonable to suspect we will see this trial spill at least into next week, post-Memorial Day. But again, you hit on it. The big question is what, if any, witnesses Donald Trump and his legal team are going to call.
So I was told one of the reasons they picked the date they did for the first debate is because they didn't want it to overlap with this trial. But it sounds like it's going to be done way before the debate happens.
I would suspect that's the case, barring some unforeseen circumstance. Now, of course, it will also depend on how long the jurors take to deliberate. Again, I don't think, the evidence in this case was very overwhelming by Alvin Bragg to prove his case. So I would suspect it wouldn't take the jurors particularly long to deliberate, but there was a lot of information presented, and so you may allot some time for them to deliberate, but it will be very interesting to watch. But keep in mind, there's also the other trials that Donald Trump is facing, the documents case, the one in D.C., the one in Fulton County. So there could be things, probably not the trials themselves, but other issues surrounding those trials taking place around that time of the first debate as well.
All right, Zach Smith, Heritage Foundation, we really appreciate you guys keeping up with that case for us.
Of course. Thank you for having me on.
All right, Zach Smith, Heritage Foundation. Man, I saw a viral video of some guy from the Heritage Foundation just lighting up the stage in Davos, talking about how the elites and the common people do not match up, and he's saying that to the elites. And I was like, man, I should play this. And then the video's from like 4 years ago. I was like, oh man, I was gonna give Heritage Foundation some love, but it was an old video. What do you think about that? What do you think about the case? Do you have any inside info? Anything we missed? Anything I should have asked Zach? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. And as soon as we're done with this, I'm going to show you the audio of what happens when a transgender high school track athlete wins the state championship. And it's not pretty. That's coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, whether you're sick of hearing about it or not, it is history in the making. Trump's court case, day in court, is now over. He came out to make a statement. Now, most days on The James Show, we watch these and they last about sometimes as short as 2 minutes, sometimes as long as 4 or 5 minutes, usually around the 3-minute mark. It's almost like they aimed for 3 minutes and they try and nail that every time. He's been talking for like 6 minutes this time. So Garrett and I we're not going to play the whole thing for you, but we're listening on the break. And did he make a reference to Shakespeare in Love like it's a reputable source, like it's the thesaurus or the Bible or I don't know, Milton Friedman or something? But I thought you would appreciate this. Go ahead, hit that.
Greg Jarrett just says, "Where exactly is the crime?" To quote a memorable line from Shakespeare in Love, "I don't know. It's a mystery. There is just no crime." Andy McCarthy, if it's unconstitutional for Texas to enforce federal immigration law, how is it constitutional for New York to enforce federal election law?
All right.
They're going by.
Not a bad point. Not a bad point. But that's what he's doing. I was listening to a few minutes of this, and he's trying to make points, but he's talking in an echoey entranceway to a courthouse behind a barricade far away from microphones. And this is stuff that the CNN, MSNBC crowd and your lefty cousin that you always get annoyed by, they've never even heard these arguments. They don't want to hear these arguments. Anybody that's already been concerned that this dude is Hitler doesn't care about the dual nature of the charges or the approach. They don't care about if it's unconstitutional, if it's unprecedented, if it's at the wrong level, state or federal, if it's past the statute of limitations, if it's never been done like this before, if it's an absolute. They don't care. They don't care. But these have become iconic moments. He's still going. He started this when we were in the last segment. So now he's been doing this for like 8 minutes. This is the longest one. And he's got like a notebook full of notes. I'm going to have to go through this. This might be half of tomorrow's show. But he's in some of it was boring though. Some of it was just your same rote thing. Plus it's so echoey there. However, this scene where he comes out of the courthouse standing behind the barricades with all the cameras far away from him, and then there's some people behind him who are kind of blurred out. That was the opening for Saturday Night Live this week. Did you watch Saturday Night Live this weekend? No. Well, I did. And I'm not going to be one of those guys that says, Saturday Night Live used to be funny. Now it's just stupid. It's a bunch of hacks. It's not even good anymore. It used to be good. Dude, everyone said that through every iteration of Saturday Night Live, every season that I've ever heard in my entire life. And what people mean by Saturday Night Live used to be good but sucks now, it means they don't watch it anymore. Either they're occupied on Saturday nights or it's out of their schedule or they go to bed earlier or something. But you're not keeping up. Of course, some seasons and some casts are better than others. But I remember when I was a kid hearing, oh, that sucks. It was good when John Belushi and Chevy Chase were on. Now we've got these idiots, Mike Myers and Dana Carvey and Adam Sandler. Right? Sounds ridiculous to say now, but then you fast forward 10, 15 years. Oh, it sucks now. It was good when it had Adam Sandler and Chris Farley and Dana Carvey. But I'm telling you, Saturday Night Live is good again. And Saturday Night Live is making fun of Trump, except it's not with Alec Baldwin this time around. They have some actor that they picked up that specifically looks like his job is to play Trump and maybe get thrown in as a filler in some other sketches. But it's not just overtly negative. It's not just talking about how he's fat and stupid and a nut. See, there's actually jokes in there. There's actually like layer and thought to it. And it's not positive. It's still a comedy show and they're still of a left-wing bent. But I'm here to tell you, it's getting better.
And now, a message from former President Donald Trump from his new home, the barricades outside of a Manhattan courthouse.
See, now this cracks me up because this is where the audio I just played from you for Trump, the setup looks almost exactly like the cold open for Saturday Night Live. They set it up to look like he's walking out of court. Kind of smart.
And thank you for coming to visit me in my cage at the zoo. I'm really enjoying these post-court press conferences in this very weird and depressing hallway. I don't like being in court because they say very mean things about me while I am trying to sleep. But I love being out here in the hallway outside court, daring judge to imprison me. He gave me a gag order. I said, that sounds like a challenge on RuPaul. But, in many ways, court has been great for me. It's been very eye-closing. Unfortunately, at the end of this trial, it looks like I'm getting a very harsh sentence and being sent to a horrible place I do not want to go to, the White House.
See, so none of that was actually taking digs at Trump. He's fat, he's stupid, he's ugly. He's into P tapes or just whatever he's a Nazi, whatever the Alec Baldwin take on Trump was. But also, if Alec Baldwin's not there and this guy does a way better job than Alec Baldwin did in his Trump impression. Like Alec Baldwin used to make faces when he was playing Trump that Trump didn't make. That whole thing where he looked like he was sucking on a straw. So this guy, he made fun of how boring it is in court. They're interrupting his sleepy time. He even made fun of RuPaul. So not bad. Better. Here's another clip from the cold open on Saturday Night Live.
I'm not going to announce my VP pick just yet. In many ways, it will be determined by the winner of the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. So we'll be watching that very closely.
See that? Now that's not making fun of Trump. That's making fun of Jake Paul, Mike Tyson just as much as it is Trump. Wouldn't those both be excellent picks for vice president? Mike Tyson and Jake Paul for vice president. Either one of this, wouldn't that be fantastic? I think it would be. Another thing I noticed here when I watched the new Saturday Night Live when they're making fun of Trump is how bad Alec Baldwin did at Trump. I kind of get mad because it bothered me at the time, but I figured there was like a recency bias, and I'm just saying that because I'm tired of all the Trump derangement syndrome or the Trump bashing, or really because the humor was very mean spirited. It wasn't even an attempt to be funny as much as it was an attempt to take digs at your political opponents, which is not the base of good comedy. And so that just lets you know how bad it was. I wonder why they didn't ask him back on. God, you negligent homicide one person on a movie set, and all of a sudden you're a bad guy. I guess. Is that how it works? The real Trump, though, came up with the line on Saturday, not on Saturday Night Live, that I'll be interested to see if this can stick, because Trump and my wife both have the gift of giving nicknames and giving nicknames that stick. I can try and give you a nickname and it may or may not stick. But Trump's a little more adept at that. Miss Parker is really good at that, too. Like all the animals
Miss Parker
at our house, the nickname came from her. But check this out. Not Jake Tapper.
The indictments are nonsense,
And you see that when you watch the television and the news reports, even though fake news CNN and fake fake Tapper is going to be one of the people. But they said to me the other day, sir, CNN with fake Tap, he is a fake, but let's see how he does. I think he's under a lot of pressure, to be fair. But fake Tapper is going to be heading up the team that interrogates you. I said, that's okay. I accept the debate. I accept it. You know why? Because nobody thought he was going to debate. They didn't think I'd accept it. I accept.
See, now being a butthead to the referee is not, and that's what a moderator is at a debate, it's not part of the James Parker approach to things. I always discourage like my fellow parents at my kids' games from yelling at the refs. It's like, do you really want to make the ref mad when he's making crucial decisions in real time about the outcome of this contest? And look, Jake Tapper is wildly against you. He pretty much hates your guts. But do you really want to make him mad? Do you really want to calcify him into his position and sort of give him an excuse to buckle down and keep hating you? I mean, wouldn't it make more sense if you sort of reached out? It's like, well, Jake Tapper's he's had sort of a troubled past, but I trust that he'll come through and be honest this time. I don't know. I'd be buttering him up. I'd be sucking up hard. I'd be sending him gifts, send him flowers, send him, I don't know, pajamagram. Do they even have those for dudes? All right. So that is Donald Trump in pop culture this weekend. Coming up next, there's a new video that came out from 2016 that shows Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Sean Combs, whatever his name is, smacking his girlfriend, hitting her and then kicking her twice, knocking her down, and then dragging her out. And then he posted an apology. I'm going to play you the apology coming up next, and you're going to tell me if you buy it. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Bob Lavelle, Home Marketing Services on The James Show. Welcome back, Bob. How was your weekend, sir?
It was fantastic. It was a little golf, a little relaxing, and a little bit of looking for homes.
Well, coming up is Memorial Day weekend, and I've heard from some of my real estate friends that a lot of business can get done on Memorial Day weekend.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, today I want to tell you about a deal that I think your listeners should hear about, because not everybody wants to be in town. Some of them would like to be out in kind of a country-ish setting. So take Cleburne, okay? It's a bit away from the big city, but we've got a house, and it's like pocket listing, so it's not out there on the internet. But it's a cute little 3-bedroom, 2-bath. But it does have a really super oversized garage, like 24 by 24. And some people like to work on their trucks, kick back a little bit. That's fine. This one does not have an HOA. So you can park your truck out in front, and you got a great big lot, front and back. Now, with that description, let's play our game. So for that oversized garage and big backyard and front yard, and relatively new house, built in 2015. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. What kind of price?
I'm leaning toward $500,000.
Very good. $269,000.
Oh, that's way better.
Yeah, $269, not on the market, not listed by anybody. We've got it ourselves. So if you've got one of your listeners that says, you know what, I want a country place, I want to be able to work on my pick-em-up truck, I want to have that, backyard with my little storage unit that nobody's going to yell about. I want to have something that's in really good shape, and I can do it for $269. I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call Bob at 214. Let's do that one. 214. Nah, that's my cell phone. You don't want to do that.
You want to do the business number, 972?
Yeah, let's do the 972, because otherwise I'd give them your cell phone.
All right. 972-392-9595. 972-392-95. You interested in that house in Cleburne? 972-392-9595. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, James. Bye-bye.
Hello, all you gorgeous Texans. It's the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back to the big show. Honored guest Stephen Moore is back on. Who's Stephen Moore? You know that name, right? He was a Trump advisor. You've seen him on TV 1,000 times, and he gave you that nice, sweet tax cut at the end of 2017. Him and Larry Kudlow wrote it. And since you were on, and welcome back to the show, Stephen Moore, but since you were on the James show last, I think Biden must listen to our show because it was almost the next day that he said, yeah, you remember those tax cuts? I'm just going to let them expire.
Yep. And that, by the way, would be one of the biggest tax increases on the middle class in history because, as you know, I work with Larry Kudlow and a few others in the Trump administration to put that tax plan together. We cut taxes by about $2,000 for every family. I'm so sick of this. Oh, that was just a tax cut for the rich. No, everyone got a tax cut under that plan. And if you let them expire, you're talking about another $2,000 loss in annual income to families, but when, by the way, the average family has lost about $2,000 in purchasing power since Biden came into office because of high inflation.
Well, and also the corporate tax cuts will still stay in place, and that's the one he's griping about that helped all the rich people out.
Well, and by the way, we got record amounts of revenues from corporate America after that rate cut came down. There's something called a Laffer curve, which means when the rates are too high, you actually get less revenue than more. And incidentally, we also saw about $1 trillion of capital flow into the United States because our rates became lower than we had the highest tax rate in the world, and then under Trump, we brought it down to one of the lowest rates. And guess what happened? We created all kinds of jobs. We had massive numbers of businesses moving into the United States. It worked like a charm.
This morning, Bob Nardelli, he's the former CEO of Chrysler and Home Depot, he says the fault lines of the economy are about ready to crack. Made a pretty convincing case to Maria Bartiromo that this economy is about to hit the skids. Do you think he's onto something?
I'm hesitant to say that. I mean, a lot of economists and businessmen were wrong about 2023 when I think most of them on Wall Street said, oh, the economy's going to crash, and it didn't. But look, I certainly agree that it's an incredibly fragile economy. And I think anybody, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, independent, whatever, everyone knows what we're doing in Washington is catastrophically wrong. I mean, we're borrowing almost $1 trillion every 100 days. I mean, it's unbelievable how much debt we've taken on. Everyone knows we've got a completely out of control border that is just creating an untenable situation in major cities. Everyone knows what's going on with our budget being, has grown with trillions of dollars new spending. It's not sustainable. Now, I can't tell you that it's going to crash in 3 weeks or 3 months or 3 years, but I can tell you with about almost near 100% guarantee that there will be a crash. I just don't know when it's going to happen.
Right. On a long enough time scale, the next recession is inevitable. But, I think we don't do ourselves a service using the word crash. I think it might just do that Japanese thing where it locks into place and just doesn't move for a decade. Yeah, no,
a decade. It's been 3 decades. I mean, if you go back, look, I want to say something really positive about this great American economy over the last 40 years since Reagan came into office, and that's about the time I came to Washington. Do you know what the Dow Jones Industrial Average was in the early 1980s?
What it was? I'm 12. It was something ridiculously low, I imagine.
It was like 1,000. Now, think about this, folks. We were at 1,000 in 1982, and now we're at 40,000. So, this has been a great economy for 40 years. Biden, here's the thing. Even though we hit 40,000 on the Dow, which is a great thing, it's a great milestone, almost all of the gains in the stock market under Biden have been attributable to one factor, inflation.
Right. Oh, totally.
So you haven't really made any money. It's just, the Dow's up just because the price of everything is up.
Right. That's another reason I tell people to invest. If you leave it in the bank account, it's going to get eaten by inflation. If you have it just an index stock, it'll go up with the tide somewhat. I don't think inflation is going to go any.
By the way, that's a really that's such an important point you make. Stocks are risky in the short term, no question about it. But for people, because I know you have people of all ages listening to your show, which is one of the reasons I love to do your show. If you're a young person under the age of, say, 40, You want every dollar of your saving in the stock market. That's how you make money. There's something, it was Albert Einstein who said the most powerful force in the universe is compound interest. You put money, especially if you're in your 20s or 30s, put every single penny of savings you got in the market. Over 30 years, you're going to be talking about that rising 20, 30-fold because, if you believe in the American economy, and I do. Look, we got a bad president right now, no question. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's never worked for a business, doesn't understand business. But you get Trump back in there, oh, my God, we're going to see a boom.
Yeah, I'm just waiting till the day when we can balance the budget again and this whole inflation thing. I know, that's laughable, isn't it?
You've been waiting a long time, my friend.
Right.
We'll have a day of jubilee when that comes because, we're running. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, we're running deficits so large now. They're larger than the annual deficits now are larger than the entire national debt that we had 40 years ago. Can you believe that?
20 years ago, probably. All right, take off your economist hat and put on your political hat because, you swim in both pools. So he announces that he would like to let your tax cut expire at the end of next year. What's the possibility of that actually happening? Because extending the tax cuts would be so politically popular on both sides of the aisle.
Well, first of all, I think there's a good chance that Donald Trump is going to be the president this time next year, and therefore we don't have to worry about the expiring, that then they are going to be extended. But I want to call people's attention to the most sinister thing that Biden is talking about is not the idea of letting the Trump tax cuts expire. That's a bad idea. But folks, open your eyes, pay attention. He's basically said, look, if I'm reelected president, and I'll give him credit. He's being perfectly honest about what he's going to do. He's going to raise taxes we're talking about a doubling of the capital gains tax from like 23% to 46%. He wants to increase he wants to tax unrealized capital gains. That means you own a farm. Let's say you made $1 million on owning a farm. You'd have to pay a tax on it, even though you haven't even sold the farm. Where are you going to get the money for that? He wants to increase our business tax rate from, the low level that we put under Trump to one of the high. We'd have a higher tax rate on our businesses than Russia and China. I mean, this is insanity. It'll destroy the economy if that happens. And he said, I've got another $2 trillion of spending he wants to do. More on these green energy programs that provide no benefit whatsoever.
Stephen Moore, thanks for being on the James Show again. Appreciate it.
Okay. See you soon. Take care. Bye.
All right. Political economic legend Steve Moore on the James Show again. And this inflation, it's not cool. It's not sexy. It's not what you guys are all talking about at your important cocktail parties that you have on the weekend. But it's the one thing that burns you every time you go to pretty much any store ever. Coming up next, some reaction to the Chiefs kicker and his statements where he was praising the idea of women choosing to be a homemaker. And it's not really as bad as you think. Stick around for that on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I'm going to teach you a new word. Non-extraditable. When you see the P. Diddy, whatever his name, Sean Combs, whenever you see his apology video that was floating around this weekend on Instagram and Facebook, the background looks very non-extraditable. Looks like he's in some sort of tropical bungalow, outdoor patio forest or whatever. You know how many jungles we have in America? Oh, that's right. 0. No, that's what innocent people do. They run to another country. All right, my next guest, Raven Harrison's back on the show. And Raven Harrison, I want to talk to you first about the new news from the Trump trial that's going on in New York. Michael Cohen's still on the stand. It looks like they're just wrapping up today in New York City. What do we know that happened today?
Well, what we know is that hopefully this is going to be wrapping up shortly, that Michael Cohen is finished embarrassing the prosecution and defining this as a kangaroo court after admitting that he stole money from Trump. So for those who are in the back, the prosecution's star lineup is a hooker, a convicted liar, and now a man who extorted Trump. He was apparently paid $50,000, and he paid out $20,000 and admitted that he kept it. I mean, they absolutely broke him down on the stand to admit that he extorted. It was his idea to pay Stormy Daniels. They have no case, but I have to give Judge Merchan points for attempting to continue this communist overtake and continue to salvage this dumpster fire. But I think that the prosecution will be resting shortly after, finishing humiliating themselves on an international stage.
So we knew he was a liar before this all happened. Does this not have to do?
Convicted liar.
Right, convicted. So does this not have to do with the other cases that have already been adjudicated or have been brought up by the FBI before?
Well, it is proof for people who are watching. This is the optics the Democrats wanted. They wanted Trump so embattled, so legally beleaguered that people just questioned his credibility and routed their authority and their demeanor to somebody else. And what's actually happened is this is proof that whether it's 9 indictments or 90, they are all garbage. They are all fielded from Biden's DOJ as they desperately try to find anything. This is the spaghetti doctrine. Throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, even though you have no case, even though you're violating his civil rights, even though all of these things are happening, they're still going to continue to press forward. So it casts doubts on all of them. They know it.
I just want this to end as soon as possible because especially if it turns out that he's innocent, that means every second that we did in court was wasted. Every day that he was in court not campaigning on the campaign trail was a waste. Every chance that he had to go do any sort of fundraising or any sort of media appearance, but he was blocked because he did this. Or when he did that, he had to talk about this. It's already the process is the punishment. He doesn't have to be punished.
Well, that was the point. The point was even if he gets acquitted, then it's still all the press that he has gotten behind all of this. And this is what they want. They want the sensationalism so they can distract from their newest topic, which is the word on the street is that Nikki Haley is planning some kind of coup at the RNC convention to steal delegates. There's information that's been turned up that they are trying to sabotage him now that way. They are not going to give up. And this is a demonstration for everybody paying attention of what communism looks like. When we, the people, doesn't have a voice, this is what the government is doing. Everything they have accused Trump of, Biden is doing. Everything. Of going after political opponents, of weaponizing the government, of increasing our taxes, runaway inflation, the border being wide open, amnesty to criminals. I mean, everything they claimed they are doing right now under the guise of, don't elect Donald Trump so he doesn't do exactly what we're doing right now.
All right, Raven Harrison, I hope this all wraps up soon and gets done so he can get back on the campaign trail. But even if he doesn't, there's no way he can go back and get this time back. It really seems unfair, especially if he's found innocent.
But we, the people, we are loyal and we are strong and we can see through this. So we, the people, have got his back.
All right, what's going on RavenHarrison.com these days?
Well, I am in Phoenix right now, going to be speaking. We have free speech under attack, so we are going to be on the county steps of the Maricopa Supreme Court, fighting for people who are going to be put in jail for posting things on social media and trying to protect their kids in schools. So anybody who in Phoenix wants to join us, but we are on the front lines of what it means to get our country back on track, James.
Thank you very much, Raven Harrison. Check her out at RavenHarrison.com. She has a book out, Raven's Mantle. She has a video documentary out, Ravenous. She's got a lot going on, so check out RavenHarrison.com. All right, coming up next, Trump just spoke. He got out of court. We hit pause on the old DVR. I'll listen to it on the break. If it's worth hearing, I'll play it for you when we get back. And either way, I'm also going to play you Saturday Night Live took on Trump this weekend, and it wasn't really that bad. And look, this cultural stuff, this pop culture stuff, this matters. I think you're going to like what you hear next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.